Kane, it's 1-0. We're fucking down. 13th in the championship. The takeover happened, as I said it would. People will be... Oh, when have we got Leeds? Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show, and it's time for another instalment of The Final Word. We've got a jam-packed house for you tonight, but before we introduce them, please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and of course hit that notification bell, and make sure you subscribe to each and every one of the contributors on The Final Word. They're bringing the positive vibes today because I'm not feeling it. Before we do that, I just want to say a big shout out to a massive friend of the show, Alison. Happy birthday to you. And each one of our guests is going to also say happy birthday to you as well. In their native tongues, we've got a Brummie. We've got a couple of Yorkshire lads. I believe... I'm almost certain Lloyd's a Brummie. I'm guessing, but I think he is a Brummie. We've got an Irishman. I don't know if they have their own accent, but Alison, you're actually from Ireland, so he can do it in his Irish dialect. And we've got an Italian. So it'll be interesting to hear him say happy birthday to Alison in Italian. What more could you ask for? We do have some different absentees. Obviously, Rocco is doing it on Talk TV. Luke is otherwise engaged, and Kate's dad is ill. She's been down to see him. She sends her apologies, but our thoughts are with Kate this evening as well. I'll try to hurry up so you're not looking at my side profile all the time because my camera and everything's done. But without further ado, let's welcome in everyone's favourite Andrea and everyone's favourite Italian since Mario, really, to be fair, is, of course, Andrea. Hi, mate. Ciao.
Ciao, Joe. Buon compleanno, Ellison, anche.
There we go. I like it. I like it. I only did that just so I could hear it in Italian, but there you go. Let's get... I don't want to do him dirty like I did last time, so what can I go with? The Phil to my Grant, the Mitchell, that is, because we're both bald, is, of course, Joe. Joe, how you doing, my man?
I get so nervous when you start winding up to these intros, dude. I'm like, what's he going to possibly say? Also, Lebreshona Duic to Alison as well, so there you go.
Oh, wow. What is that? I didn't realise, but I like that. I like that. That's almost better than the Italian, that, mate, to be
Happy
fair.
birthday, Alison.
There you go. We've got my fella, I would say like Halifax. I mean, yeah, it's just my younger brother, if you like. He needs to sort out his hair from time to time. It's Sideshow Bob himself, Mr. Lockie. How you doing, bro? All right?
Yeah, great, Joe. Thanks for that. You know what, I can't back. All right. I'll do it in my best Yorkshire accent. All right. Happy birthday, Alison, love. How's that?
There you go. There you go. Love that. Love that. Resident. Yeah.
Not when you're from there, you've got to do it even more Yorkshire.
Everyone's favourite tactician, of course, it is Max from Leeds lately. How are you doing, brother?
All right, thanks, mate. I think you assumed I'm from Yorkshire. I actually live in Lancashire.
Oh,
get him off.
Exclusive.
I thought you were in Leeds. Are you from Lancashire?
I'm from Cumbria, near the Lake District originally.
Oh, I didn't know that. Go on then, give us a Cumbrian happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Alison.
There you go. And last but certainly not least, joined the 1000 club today as well is, of course, Lloyd from Let's Talk Leeds United. Lloyd, how are you doing? First and foremost, are you a Brummie?
No, I'm from Brighton.
Brighton? Yeah. I thought he was a Brummie.
Yeah, South Coast, mate.
Oh, there you go. Give us a South Coast happy birthday, mate.
Happy birthday, Alison. And thank you for your support. My first ever live stream, it was just me talking to Alison. That was it.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
She's a legend. Like,
yeah, she is.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, great stuff. I love that. Listen, man, that's so lush. But honestly, as a community, you folks know that do these streams already. They just follow you everywhere, so it's great to see. So happy birthday, Alison. And let's get and like I say, Lloyd got 1,000 subscribers today as well. So make sure you continue to show some love. I was speaking to Joe Blackburn earlier on as well, and he said that a lot of yous had gone over after he was on as well, so I wanted to just send his thanks for that. So buzzing to see. But let's get straight into it. As I said, there's 556 people in the house already. Please smash a like. Let's see if we can get close to 1,000 live viewers. There's loads for us to chew over today. We're going to try and do the game because that's what the final word's about. But of course, no doubt it is going to siphon off into different areas because every man and his dog wants to leave Leeds United at the minute. I believe even those that we think want to stay secretly behind the scenes probably do want to leave. And that's what comes with the championship, I guess. But I won't go too rogue. I'll just do it in a clockwise manner. So Andrea, we'll come to you, mate. How are you after yesterday's game? Because any positivity I had's been drained out of me. But the game itself,
yeah, looking at the game itself, I think the first half was good. Like the first half in Oslo, we see there's link-ups that they're starting to understand the tactics in a certain way. But of course, we're lacking players that can play that style of play right now in some position, especially the left back, and we lack absolutely of a striker and a number 10 to me. The second half, of course, like in Oslo, when the reserves were subbed in. Everything crumbled, and we were absolutely dominated tactically by Monaco, but their eye pressing and the youngsters, they were all subbed in together basically, and they didn't understand how to deal with that, unfortunately, and there were no main senior players, to lead the team. It was a very young team in the second half, so it was a very underwhelming and bad second half, but it shows you, to me, that we need more players, and especially we need players that are more experienced, because if some of the players aren't there, you need to sub them off. One of the main players, you have to put all the youngsters in, and they're not ready yet to play with a team full of youngsters, of players that we don't know if they're going to be there or not, like Shackleton, for example. But yeah, it was a game of two halves. Positive, especially fitness and the tactics in the first half. The second half was, like I said, really underwhelming. What I didn't like for my mood, was the post-match. When we heard that there's still players 2 weeks before the start of the season that want to go for the door exit. But yeah, it's just a general fault, to me. There are main culpables, but I think we'll touch on that later.
Definitely.
But yeah, I wasn't really happy about what I've heard. But yeah, Farke was really honest, but it was a completely honest assessment of the situation. And of course, it doesn't sound happy. And the same for me, and I think same from the majority of us, I think, in those things.
I think you bang on. I really like the point that you've made about Farke, because one thing I'll say, he's very honest. He's come across in his post-matches, pre-match, and just said it as it is. And I rate that. I like, in effect, that he's thrown Max Vober under the bus a little bit. Is he under the bus? It's not really Max's fault, if I'm being totally honest. I can't say that, but he'd obviously give...
wrong.
Sorry, mate. He's obviously gave the club some idea he was going to stay, though, because they put him on the kit stuff, and then next thing you know, he's telling him. I mean, he was made captain for Barnsley. Come on, and then before game, he's gone. I'm not playing. It's just a bit of a country. That is what it is. I can't blame these guys. It's not their fault, but he has. I mean, look, Joe. The club can't even organise friendlies. Like, even that's a shit show, because Daniel Farke's gone, if I was here, there'd have been a couple of easier games in there as well. It's like, and he even made that assessment. So it just shows that everything up to this point has just been an absolute shit show. But try focus on the game if you can, and then go into the shit show.
Wouldn't be like me to go off on a tangent, Joe, would it? I'm not bothered about this game, and I don't think anybody should be. If I'm being completely honest. I think there's a little bit of perspective again needed. It's pre-season friendly against a very good Monaco side. Yeah, it would be great if we were playing against an easier side, but what did we really learn about a 9-1 win over Barnsley versus playing a much stronger side who finished 6th in Liga last season? So it's, that's the first piece. The context is hugely important. Again, the changes in the second half for me probably weren't made at the time when changes should have been made. I would have been making those changes at half time to give them a full half to get into it. Bringing that many players on with 30 minutes to go You're trying to get up to the speed of the game. Monaco were in their rhythm at that stage. It's very, very hard to catch up with that game. So there's that kind of thing. But again, is it really important? Probably not. It's again about, we saw last week, the game against Manchester United was 45 minutes each for most of the players. That was it. This week, a portion of the squad got 60 minutes, so they're up in that game time. I'm sure that'll go up again over the next 2 friendlies. And Hearts is probably the easier one, although not that easy either because we're there in Scotland. So it's probably the easier one coming into the start of the season. But they need to be competitive as well. We don't have a lot of time to get the players sharp. So the more competitive games they have early on, the sharper they'll be. I thought there was some really good positives to come out of the game. I think Archie Gray will handle playing centre mid in the Championship. I don't think he'll play every single game. There was moments in the game where he went in and out of it, but I thought in general he looked okay in there. I thought Ampadu looked really, really good for 2 different reasons. It wasn't only his progressive passes forward, and it was also the ability to cut out chances for the opposition. Like he cleared 2 balls off the line as well, or 2 crosses that were heading into the box. So reads the game very well. What I also noticed about him as well, and if you watch him for the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, he's completely free in the middle of the park at all times. He's constantly moving. He's always looking for space. And I really like that about him as well. It's smart footballer. You put a few more around him. And the negatives to come out of the game, I think Cressy needs an experienced player beside him. I think that showed in the second half. He didn't look the player. He just needed a little bit of experience beside him, or either side him, centre back or a full back. And we desperately need a goal scoring number 9 because when we did create chances and did put the ball into the box, there was nobody there. Rutter had a very good game when he was out wide and a very good game in the number 10. But as I said the last time we spoke about Rutter, he just doesn't look like a number 9 to me. He doesn't look like he can play in that position on his own. But I do like the look of him when he is out wide in the 10. He's dangerous. So it's a mixed bag. There's, again, some of the players did quite well. Some of them didn't do as much, but it's minutes on legs, and that's all it is right now. Yeah,
true. Very true. Let's pick out a positive from that Lockie, and let's have a little chat about Ampadu, because I know you've done a couple of videos on him. I know you were big on him prior to him coming in. And I thought he really shone. There was a couple of times where he turned in the centre of the park and lofted a ball over into the channel, for I think it might have been Rutter. He was just really impressive. And I think what really shone out to me, and I know Joe said about him always being 3, was the fact that he was telling these players around him where to go, what to do. He was saying, give it there, and then he would move to receive that pass from the player that he just told. Do you know what I mean? And to say he's 22, it's wild for me. And I just think at 7 million, end of the season, that is going to look like some steal.
Yeah, well, he's found a home. He's found a club that believed in him, brought him in. He's not on loan anymore. He's at the club. He knows now. He's a big part of this. He'll have been told that. And he's come in 4 or 5 days ago, full training. Yeah. And to fit in like that, and that's what I'm like, that's a player there. And like you said about the value and his age and the experience he's had. But every experience has been at top level, which is why, in these games, he knows against Monaco's and teams like that, he's played against similar sides. He just looked better than everyone else. And he looked more ready than everyone else, which you wouldn't have thought. And that's what I really took from it. He's been in less than a week and the role suited him perfectly. Everything he did, he always had time, risky passes, easy for him. Look, lost the ball once or twice. Who cares? Is what it is. You know what I mean? I just thought all around play was solid. The link up between him and actually Somerville and Ruta, I thought was very good. On the right side with Sinistera as well. His movement, we know Sinistera's got that class as well with his movement. And he added bodies around him. He reminded me of Calvin Phillips. First game against Stoke when totally different. And we're like, wow. Yeah, I didn't expect him to play this well straight away. I thought he'd come in, do all right, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. He just looked ready, like he'd been playing all season. Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah. Honestly, I thought it was really good.
I agree. Was there anything else from the game itself that you wanted to?
I was like, you know what? I watched the highlights. The full game isn't out yet, but I watched the highlights earlier. I was actually impressed with Dan James. Mm-hmm. I thought his forward movement. We know he's quick, obviously, and if you can hone that and really build his confidence, he has that attribute and he's quicker than everyone else. His crossing was really good. He could have had 2 or 3 assists yesterday. That impressed me. I know I get the strike thing. Obviously, Root's not that guy, is he? But actually, the first half, the build-up was actually quite good. We did struggle that final ball, that last pass. Creed get the ball in midfield. He'd do decent stuff, but then that last pass wasn't there. And that's what you need. That's why we need that number 10 player who can make that. But yeah, like we scored 9 against Barnsley last week. So we have goals. We just need to constantly work on that, develop it against better sides, add bodies. Obviously, that's vital. But yeah, I was all right with it. Second half, I think they're the players he's not sure about, or the players who are not fit yet. I think the first team in the first half and the 50 minutes a second, they are the main ones. I think that's right now the first team, and they were good for me against a good side.
Yeah, against a very good side in Monaco. Let's not beat around the bush. They had some good players in there. Golovin and Ben Yedder and stuff have done it for season on season now, to be fair. Max, much like Lockie yourself, you analysed the game and different to say someone like myself. What did you, pick out from it?
I think the main thing is Ampadu. And I just think it's obvious to see why Farke had identified him as a target when he was back at Norwich and in previous seasons, because he just works in this system. He comes back, he drops in and gives Meslier an option. That's one of the main things he needs to do in this system. The other thing that I think he did so well, better than somebody like Rocker and better than somebody like whoever else we'd had playing in that midfield. And I mentioned this in the video I made when we signed him. I said, this is why he's a good signing. Because somebody like Rocker would just let his man run right past him into the box and he'd be the one to score the goal. And Rocker would be stood on the edge of the box going like that. My video today, I highlighted this because there was one where Kjelda tried to play a first-time pass forward and it was completely cut out by the opposition and they had a counter-attack. But Ampadu was always in front of his man, always checking his shoulder, knew where he was, and he got to the front post and cleared it before the ball was able to get to the striker. And obviously, that's a keeper's dream. Meslier was like properly congratulating him, thanking him, because that is something that we've lacked. And even against Man United, there was a clip, where Klaassen made that really good save from point blank range and sort of slapped it down, reflex save. That was the same situation, but we didn't have somebody like Ampadu tracking back in there. So JB, young, inexperienced, was stood on the edge of the box whilst his man, I think it was Hannibal Majiri, he took his shot whilst JB still stood on the edge of the box, just watching his man to have a shot. And Ampadu makes that difference in there. And the thing is as well, like Lockie said, Dan James stood out to me. I saw somebody tweeting out saying the things that we learned from this game and that James shouldn't be a starter. But once you see where he puts that ball, and I love this corridor of uncertainty thing, but putting it between the defenders and the goalkeeper, it's such a tantalizing ball for an out-and-out striker. And you get any striker worth his salt, he's on the end of it and it's in the back of the net. And we don't have that. I highlighted that as well. They were on the edge of the box, Rutter, and I think it was Sinistero or Somerville. They were on the edge of the box whilst that ball went right across the keeper's face and nobody was there to tap it in. And he did that against Manchester United as well in the previous game. From the right, when he was playing on the right-hand side, he also curled it in with his right foot right across the face of goal. To have somebody like that can do that in the Championship is really, really positive.
The Ayling cross as well, Max.
Yes, yeah, the one for Ayling as well. That time he cut back onto his right foot from the left-hand side and he picked out his man perfectly. It's exactly what you want from a winger. And people have been saying last season and when we loaned him out that he's crap and that we should never have bought him. But there's a reason why Bielsa wanted him when we were in the Championship. He is an excellent Championship player, maybe not quite a brilliant Premier League player. He's a very average Premier League player, you would say, just because of his decision making. But I think that is improving, and he's not even that old. So I think Dan James and Ethan Ampadu are going to be some real assets for us this season.
I wouldn't call him excellent, but I'm not his biggest fan. But that I understand it as well. A Championship,
I think he can be excellent this season.
Yeah.
He's capable of it.
He can surely improve, But I think he will be. I don't think he was that good yesterday. Of course, he made some good plays, but going forward, I think when he had some opportunities, it was inconsistent for me. But I really like the player, so I think
he wants to be here.
He wants to be here, of course. I would like to see him. I would like to see him and judge him better for me, in my personal point of view, when he'll play alongside a proper number 10 alongside him, because I think the wingers will benefit from that.
Sorry, Andrea. I thought you'd stop. Go on, Karen.
No. Just gonna say, for me, the wingers, especially James, will benefit when we'll have a proper number 10 playing in the middle between them. To me, because right now they're playing wide, but they don't have a link up in the middle that can, of course, send them through with through passes and dialogue. Interact with them with the ball, of course. Try to do one-twos especially, and move the ball in that final third. When we have a proper number 10, I think James will be one of the players that will benefit the most from this new signing.
And did you have something? Go on.
And also, obviously, Farke was interested in signing Dan James when he was manager of Norwich. So historically, he obviously rates him. But just adding to what you said about the game yesterday, one of the standouts for me was Strauch. I thought he was brilliant. I've seen a few people questioning that, but I thought he looked really assured, and I thought he looked a bit like the Strauch that we used to know and love. And obviously, he's been left back and CDM, and since that tackle on Elliott, he hasn't really been the same player. But I'm hoping that we can get Strauch back to what we had a couple of seasons ago, because he was the next Van Dijk at one point.
Virgil van Strauch. That's what I used to call him. Virgil van Strauch. I mean, we're going to need him, because the way it's going, we won't have any players left. I mean, he might want to go, so I don't want to gas him up too much. I'm really cautious at the minute over who I hang my hat on. But Max, I love when you mentioned the corridor of uncertainty, because that's something I use on my watch along. And then you mentioned tantalising, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice."
Use that next week.
Yeah, I'm having that. I'm having that. I'll put that in the bag for Thursday when we play Forest. So Strauch then at Lloyd, I'm the same as you, because I thought he had a really good game. Chalk and cheese from what we've seen against Manchester United. And then I've seen people saying different online, and that's the thing with football, right? Because everyone was raving about Hjelde, and I still don't see it, peeps. And I know there'll be people here who maybe do, but I look at Hjelde and I'm like, he gets beat too eezy.
I think he's a good backup left back. I don't think he should start. I think he'd be good to have on the bench, because he's young. He can be developed. There's definitely potential there, isn't there?
It's 19.
He needs an older head in front of him.
I agree with Joe.
He needs a fucking left back.
Yeah, of course we do. But he's not a starter, obviously, but he's 19. Like, keep him with Farke. And
he could be a left back. He's predominantly played, even though he was a centre back at Celtic, he has played the bulk of his senior career at left back. But what I would say is, he is 19. He's not what Leeds need right now. Leeds need a confident first choice left back. And I know you want to talk about the other stuff, and I don't want to go into that just yet, but there is a very strong possibility that we're left with Firpo. There's a possibility that he does not go, because he's going to be injured until at least the first international break, which means you're talking about a week or two after that before the window closes. So there's a very strong possibility Firpo stays. Is there a possibility of Firpo being a half-decent championship level left back? I still don't think so. I don't want him in the club. I'd like somebody else at this point. But I think Hjelde is your second option. However, it's looking more and more likely to me that Sam Byram becomes the second option at left back, and Leeds look at maybe a Taylor or a first choice left back.
Really?
Yeah.
John, funny enough, I actually thought when Byram did come on at left back, I thought he had a couple of good forward runs. I thought he looked okay.
We can't do this, man. I'm fucking sick, man. We can't.
I'm going to be...
We balance it out.
No, I'm going to be bold.
If you take his injuries, sorry, Andre, but if you take his injuries out of the equation, he has been a member of a Norwich side that has won 2 promotions from this division and has been described.
Play?
I know that, but he's been described by our current manager, who had him during that time, as a leader, as a potential captain. There's a lot of good things there. I'm not saying... Yeah,
but he's saying that about someone who don't fucking play. What does that mean?
I also said if his body is fit and his body is ready, he's an option. And that's the big thing. That's the big question mark, is if his body is fit and his body is ready, and that's where he has to get to.
I do like Byram, by the way.
And if you get a fit Sam Byram, you've got options on right back and left back. You've got options to play him as a wing back. You can push him in as a winger as well. We saw what he did at Leeds the last time he was here, playing more advanced.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not your first choice, and that's okay. That's the big thing for me, is
just someone to bolster up the squad a bit.
Correct.
Isn't it? Yeah, and it'd be for free as well. So,
and again, and it makes sense. It's a smart choice again. But again, it's only smart if he's fit, and that's the big caveat here, that he has to make sure they have to be. Rob Price isn't signing off on Sam Byram signing for Leeds with his injury record, unless he's confident that he's past his injury problems. And if he is, there's a good option. He did very well for Norwich when he did play left back, and West Ham when he was at there. He did quite well playing left and right back. So there's a good option there, but we still need to go and buy a first choice left back who has experience and can do this properly. And again, another smart, sensible choice and not a risk. I think a lot of the players who've been linked with at left back, I don't think are real because they are gambles. They are risks. The guy from Palmeiras is, as Andrea has described him as well, is a card risk. You know, he goes in far too hard and tackles, and he's an issue. So they feel like Victor Orta moves. So I think if you do look at that, and as Lloyd has already said, you've got to bolster the squad. And if you can bolster them with people who know the club, who are experienced players, who've done it in the Premier League, who've played in the Championship, who've won this league, know what
I would argue he's not done it in the Premier League.
Okay, I'll accept that. But let's say he has got out of the Championship twice, and he has been part of those groups, and he does, again, another player who knows what it takes to get out of this league, and that's going to be hugely important. But again, not as a number one choice.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not like. This isn't frustrating at you, Joe, disagreeing with you because I value your opinion highly. I just think I was expecting so much.
Well, I say is don't not expect that still, because, and this is what I said.
But we're settling on Byram though.
I don't think we are, and that's the thing is, I don't think
the first
we are.
choice though.
I don't think we're settling at all with Byram. So this is the thing I wanted to say to you, Joe. Before we came on, I said there's a couple of nuggets that will hopefully cheer you up a little bit, and there's two of them here.
Okay.
What has happened with Volbert today and yesterday, and what has happened with the players? Parag Marate, in his live stream or his podcast, he did the Leeds United podcast with Matthew Lewis, he told us this was going to happen. He said more players are going to leave that we're not going to be happy with, but that they're confident that they will still bring in more players after that will give us enough to push this squad forward. And we were all happy with that then. So you're still looking at possibility of Nanto going as well. Someone big is still going to leave here. If Vober goes, he goes. He doesn't want to be here, don't be here. Let's get him out of the way. The loans don't fall on their shoulders. The loans are unfortunately how these contracts were ever allowed. This goes back to the ego I've described Orta and Roger Zanni had before of they were so confident that relegation was impossible. They put these ridiculous clauses in to go, well, look, if we do go down, we'll let you leave for nothing, but you can always come back when you want to. Because they didn't think it was going to happen. Then it happens and we're screwed with it. So we've got to just deal with the cards that we've got. But again, as I said, they've told us this stuff was going to happen. That transparency we're seeing from Farke is also there from them. So they've said this is going to happen. We're going to lose more players and you're not going to be happy about it. But we're confident the players we bring in will be enough for this team to push forward. And that's what we've got to park ahead.
Yeah.
Realistically, how many bodies do you think we're bringing in?
I think we need 4, but I think we'll bring in 3. Definitely 3, but I think we need 4.
That's not enough.
3 more than Ampadu, or 3 including Ampadu.
I think we need, no, I'll say 3 more. 4 with them, and if you include and I'd like another 4, so 5 in total, including Ampadu.
Yeah,
that gives room for the players like JB, like Joffy, like Drama to push into the team, but also brings in more quality as well. But that needs, at least 4 players need to come in on top of Ampadu.
But what I would say in response to that is you're going to need so much more because
probably will. You're going to need more depth, but you're going to need. I think we need 4 to 5 first team players. Starting
first team.
If you look at the first team, Joe, if we were to bring in a left centre back and a right centre back and a striker, and we've already got Ampadu and we've been impressed by him, you start to think that a left back as well. So if you bring a left back, a centre back, 2 centre backs, and a striker in, you start to look at that team with the players that we've got, and you think, oh, okay, these could probably do a bit. It's just that we need to settle. Well, the club needs to settle people's heads a bit by starting that ball rolling of bringing in some more players. If they go out and sign a right centre back tomorrow and announce it, it's like, okay, yeah, what's the next one? And then by the end of the week, they've done 1 or 2 more. You start to relax a bit then, I think. I think it's just because we still, even though we've had the takeover now, we still feel a little bit like we're in limbo because we have brought a player in and then we're starting to think, oh, more players are leaving though. We kind of, I think, even subconsciously, we've kind of thought once the club's been taken over and once Ampadu came in, your brain was only really thinking about incomings. And whether that be conscious or subconscious, I kind of just only thought about the fact we'd be bringing players in and that'll be the set squad now. But there are going to be more people leaving and we just need to bring some more players in.
Do you care anymore?
No.
I don't care who goes anymore. I just want them gone, man.
But that is the real problem to me. Because before thinking about how many players we need, realistically, we need to look how many clauses are out there again. Because before we bring people in, we need We need the places to be, to be available. Because right now these players are still here, and maybe we go into mid-August and offers come in and say, okay, yeah, bye, I go another loan clause. Because we were talking with Joe before we went online. Struijk renewed his contract recently. Llorente renewed his contract recently, another clause. Does Struijk have a clause?
Jack Harrison as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you look at all the signings that Horta recently made, they all had a clause. So does Sinisterra have a clause too? We need to know how many players still have a clause, because before that we're toyed. Like
we've only got one loan clause left.
That's
international though. That's international.
I don't think it is. I thought it was 7.
No,
it's 7 loans
from
your
international.
Are allowed
international.
It's
international.
It's only
so
international.
How many are allowed to loan out on the EFL? Because there is a limit on that as well.
Under 21 is different. The 7's international. So you could see Jack Harrison go out on loan to a Premier League club with a view to a term.
That's only one more. Only one more can do that over 21 years of age.
No, that's international. Domestic. Domestic, there's not a problem.
There's no regulation domestically, I think.
No, there is.
There definitely
is, but I think it's only.
Chelsea got caught for this as well.
I think it's 4 more were allowed.
4
domestically.
I don't think that's.
We are Loan FC, man.
Loan
United FC.
None of these players are coming back. None of them are coming back. I mean, I
know that. And I don't want them
off the bench for Burnley today after when he left Burnley when they got relegated, but out on loan, ended at Manchester United. He comes off the bench today in Burnley, and one of the fanzines tweeted out, Martin Weghorst comes on to a chorus of boos from the home fans. And I retweeted that and I said, this is why none of these players come back. They can't.
Yeah,
none of these players can be welcome back once they go.
Because when we needed them most,
they chugged off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the thing I'll question. Sorry, mate. The thing I'll question is obviously the financial side of it is just a catastrophe with all these loans, but also where are the players' heads going to be at? You want people in a relegation battle to be like, this is all or nothing. But if they know that in 2 months' time they can get a loan, they're not going to care, are they? They'll be like, well, I'm off in a minute anyway. So I don't know. Just the whole thing was just a shambles.
Soft underbelly, man.
It's a shambles as well, because other Premier League clubs didn't do that, and it's not like we were attracting the world's best players, is it? And having to put ridiculous clauses in so that they would sign with us rather than going to a better club. It's like we were signing crap
players from Moments FC, Salzburg,
from the Austrian league, like Rad said,
You're allowed to loan 4 players out domestically.
Okay.
And only 1 to the same club. You can't loan 2 to the same club.
Is that regardless of age?
But that just says in the Premier League, maximum number of loans registered for the same club is 4, and under no circumstance shall any club from the same club any more than 1 from the same club at any one time. Premier League clubs cannot loan to another Premier League club a player that they have acquired in the same transfer window. So if you buy a player in the Premier League, you can't loan it back out in the same window. We're not in that, but we can loan 4 domestically.
Okay.
Yeah, but we haven't loaned any yet.
Yeah, but that's total. So that includes under 21s domestically.
Okay, but
so you got Shaq, we've got Perkins going to go on loan.
These need to be sold though. This is the thing as well.
It's not just loan clauses. It's also monetary relegation clauses. That is the problem. Because they can go with it's not alone in that case. For a specific, there's been talks about a relegation clause for Adams and a relegation clause for Alisson, which has not been confirmed. The problem is that there's loan clauses and also monetary clauses. So some players like Rodrigo, they can go if an offer of that price go. Just 3 million from Rodrigo. But just to finish off about what we were talking about, I think we need at least 1 left back. I'll have 2, but I think they're going to use Firpo when he's fit again. And we're forgetting about Stuart Dallas when he comes back, in my opinion, because probably Yelde for me is a centre back. Of course, he can play at the left back too, but he's a defensive-minded player. And if you look at the system of fact, yesterday there was a picture in my mind when I was watching the game. Ayling, during when we were in possession with Ampadu, Ayling was on the same line with the wingers, and Yelde was back. So they weren't on the same line. Yelde is a totally different player. Yeah, it's a different player. So
I do think that depends on which side the attack's on, though, because I think he does like to have them unbalanced. And so if Yelde went, Ayling would be back.
Most coaches do.
Can I just say though on that? Can I just say though on that, from what I've seen, I don't think there was any. I don't even think it was a case of switching. It was just right does it, left doesn't.
Doesn't do it, yeah.
Yeah,
I genuinely don't remember a situation because I thought exactly the same because I mentioned it on the watch along.
Well, he did have that shot though, didn't he? Where he got high up, got into the box, it came out, and he had a good low-driven shot that the keeper saved.
But I think from what I remembered seeing is I always kept seeing Archie Gray drop into the right back spot, if you like, and Ayling was playing as a winger at times. I never seen Ampadu or JB dropping at left side. It was always on the right hand side because it was always Shackleton when he came on. Yeah. So I don't know if it's my thought process was that Hjelde isn't a wing back like Ayling can play, so therefore he wasn't doing either or. Whereas if he had someone that could do that role on the left, he would do that more. That's just what I thought. I don't know what.
Well, at Norwich,
I agree.
Max Aarons at Norwich got up a lot more than Jamal Lewis did. He got involved in goals a lot more, and I think it's to do with the personnel. Look, Sinisterra and Ayling on that side will have a better connection than Hjelde and Dan James, right? So I don't know. We'll see. But it's obviously something that he'll have to work on if that's the case. Go on,
you did find as well, though, to compare it to another system, at Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold got forward quite a bit more than Andy Robertson, and it was always Henderson's job to drop into that right-back position, much like what you identified there, Joe, with Archie Gray or JB or Ampadu, whoever, dropping into that basically a right back role whilst they're on the attack. That is exactly what Henderson's job used to be in the 4-3-3. I know Klopp's changed it over recent years, but that's what he used to do, is drop in there and do that. So sometimes it might just be because you think Ayling's going to be a lot better at getting forward than Hjelde is, which pretty much does come back to the same thing with your point that he's not as good at getting forward. But sometimes it can be a tactical thing where they think you're not really good enough to do that job, so don't try it as much. And maybe it's that, but if we want the best outcome possible, you want to bring in a left back who is capable of doing that, don't you? So you can have the option of having both sides. And I think that's what they'll look to do, but it's just...
It's down to attributes, right? Luke Ayling, we've known his best attributes are getting forward. He's good at it. People can't deny that. Defensively, you can question it. But going forward, Luke Ayling's good. His runs are good. He's effective. Sinisterra, he can do everything you need him to on that side. It's a dangerous partnership. I just think that left needs to build a bit more. We need to find personnel there, definitely.
The ironic thing is, the only thing that Junior Firpo is half decent at is going forward. But it's got to the point where it's like, if we had signed him fresh now and we'd seen a few games of him getting forward, and that Southampton game, for example, where he scored that goal, you'd think, he'd do well in this system. But it's just because he's one of the people who got us relegated that I'm just like, I just need him to go. Like we need a fresh face in there, somebody fresh else. Canvas, and somebody else who's better defensively. Yeah,
exactly. He shambles defensively when he goes forward. He just gaps and doesn't come back on defense. There's been multiple games last season when he went forward and left gaps, lost the ball, and but he's injury prone too. How many injuries did he have? It's not his fault. True. It's not his fault, of course, but I agree. We need a new face, and the other positions for me are of course another midfielder. Yeah, because there were talks about Glenn Kamara, for example, a number 10 for sure. That's a crucial position, and I might sound unrealistic here, but I think we need two strikers, because Rutter should be moved to the wing or in another position as a second striker. But of course, it's not in our system right now, the second striker, because I think we need a prolific goal scorer and a good backup, cheap backup. Because Bamford right now, for me, it's like the third choice. If you look at him,
so bad.
It's not fit to be the backup. It's not fit to be the backup.
I think Gelhardt could actually work quite well as a backup number 10. We need to bring in a number 10, but I think Gelhardt could get his playing time there. Because if we're only playing one striker and you've got somebody like Joel Perreault, for example, he's pretty good at staying fit. He's not really going to be out the team much other than in the cups, maybe. So I think
I thought Gelhardt played well yesterday as well, Matt. I thought he played well.
Played slightly differently than when Rutter was in there for a bit, which is interesting as well. Joffy plays near like a deep line number 9, where Rutter drops really, really deep into midfield to try and get the ball and run at players. So a more direct kind of option, but there's two very good options. And if you are chasing the game where you need a goal, think Joffrey makes perfect sense in the number 10 because it's a different kind of player. You're looking for him to come on and score a goal from that position. So,
well, that's what Wayne Rooney did later in his career. And obviously, there's been comparisons with the fact that he's stocky, he's short, and he's scouse.
That is where it stops, by the way.
That's where it stops. But
I'm guilty.
Rooney had a lot more done at this stage in his career.
Yeah. But in terms of actually when you're watching him and you see the stocky, low center of gravity, a bit like Carlos Tevez as well, and obviously he's not the same player as those players, but that type of build and that body shape and that strength and low center of gravity and sort of bulldog attitude is probably quite well suited to that number 10 role, because it does provide something a bit different from your sort of flair player in that number 10 role. He's more of he'll put his body around, he'll put his shoulder in, he'll make tackles, and then he'll look to try and play the ball in as well, which he's got a decent pass on him. We've seen over the years in the under 21s, he's played some decent passes in behind for when he was partnered with Sam Greenwood and stuff like that. So I think he could be a backup option there. It's just that we need to bring in a number 10. I think Emmanuel Dennis could do well as a number 10, because he's not a prolific goal scorer. But when you actually watch his clips, when he's played on the wings or as a striker, he actually drops pretty deep. And again, I always I'm not actually comparing him to Harry Kane, but when you see Harry Kane as a striker, you think he should be on the last man, but you see him sometimes in his own half, picking up the ball and spraying balls around. Emmanuel Dennis could do a similar sort of thing because he's not a prolific goal scorer.
And Mourinho did do that with Harry Kane. He put him into a number 10 position when he took over there initially. He actually brought it and said, if you're going to drop that deep anyway, you may as well be in the number 10 position and create the move and put Sonny in as a number 9 then. So it could work. And they've signed Elanga or have agreed a D for Elanga. So that could, if there is any truth to the Dennis stuff, that might free him up now to make a move. So
they might. The thing is, we don't know this, but Leeds might have reached out to them about the availability of Emmanuel Dennis, and they might say, "Okay, come back to us with a bid when we bring somebody in to replace him."
Yeah,
when he's surplus to requirements. So you might see that one starts to move a little bit more now because they've got that. And I was talking to a Rangers fan on my channel the other day about Glenn Kamara as well, and he was saying how they're looking at Jose Cifuentes from LAFC. And they want the sale of somebody like Glenn Kamara to fund that transfer. So you could see that's how the dominoes start to fall in these transfer situations. That these clubs
nearly
are
nipping ahead of them and grab Cifuentes ourselves, because we were linked pretty heavily with him last year twice.
Ecuadorian international.
Very good midfielder.
I'm dreading August, like literally. I was looking forward to it, but you just know there's going to be people playing in August who aren't going to be there in September, and it's going to go right down to the wire. And what if deadline day we lose, I don't know, Sinistera and Adams or something, and then no time to replace them? So do the 49ers get people in before that? It's just going to be.
Do you know? Sorry, I was going to say, Lloyd, Joe, it is for me, right? And the situation is frustrating, right? Because like you said, we don't know what's going to happen until the last day of the transfer window. But that's what we're in. That's it, right? That's going to happen. That's right. What we need, I think, what I'm going to focus on is the players we bring in. And if, I look at Ampadu. He came in literally a day before. We knew it a day before, right? Came in, played yesterday, outstanding. What we need. If we can just copy that recruitment and get the players we need in the right positions. Look, we might lose someone that might need to bring someone in quickly, but that's down to the club to do that quickly. If we can just recruit the right people, let's say we lose Somerville, Montour, and we do need a winger. As long as we, we'll have people, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Emmanuel Dennis, people like that ilk. We're clearly contacting them, or they're on our list or in our sphere. Maybe that's waiting, right? Waiting for that non-tour bid to come in. Then they jump on that. I don't know, but I just think if we can replicate the way we recruited, we needed a centre mid. We got one, and he's really good so far, right? Looks brilliant. Do that constantly. And I back so far the recruitment team to do that.
There was an interesting thing said about Nick Hammond on the Athletics. On Square Ball said it. I think Phil Hay said it. I think Adam Pope said something similar. He's very highly thought of already at Leeds, and they've said that they admire the work he's done. Well, he's only brought in one player, and that's his job is to manage his transfer. So we don't know what else has gone on behind the scenes in terms of lining players up or getting initial contacts made. So they could be looking at this going, the players we think we're going to bring in, we're happy enough with these. We think these will bring us forward. Very happy with this guy. There's a lot of positive stuff. I remember we were all down and beat last Friday.
True.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Ampadu comes in. We're like, oh, okay, stuff is happening. This is great news.
Yeah.
These players are going to go. Like, Nanto, realistically, is probably going to go. So
I don't care, you know.
Good, but this is the point. Everyone just needs
I
to
don't
get ready for
care.
this. And when they do go fine. We know they're going to go.
Do one, man.
Interesting. If they want to be smart, Prague gets a lot of credit about how he negotiated his contract. And if there is a
Yeah.
4-loan limit, I would be very smart. I would get the young players domestically out loan immediately. And that locks those 4 spots that you can loan players out in the UK. Gone.
Paveda or someone like that.
Loan one more out internationally, and you're done.
Yeah.
None of you. Yeah, your contract says that you've got a loan option. However, the rules of the league say you can't leave, and the league owns your contract, so you stay here.
Realistically, I think it's not. Is it real? Look, I don't think Nanto and Somerville will be here past the window. Yeah, because I don't care for them. I genuinely don't.
Joe,
That's Sinistera.
Sinistera too for me.
I would love Sinistera to stay, but again, I think a couple of good performances puts him in the shop window, and we can't keep hold of him because someone will bid.
There's one thing with Sinistera though, Joe, and I saw it again yesterday. Every time he gets a kick, he has to come off the pitch. Every time.
Yeah, true.
Doesn't matter what game it is. Someone bumps into him, he falls down. He has to come off the pitch for 10
how
minutes.
physical is the championship as well?
Exactly.
He's
Yeah, he's going to get lumps to them. Like, I think I think he's going to have to be able to take it. But I don't think I don't know if he can, because we saw it last year. Every time he got a kick on the pitch last year, that was him out for 2 or 3 weeks. That he was missing. And then we've already seen it twice in preseason against Manchester United. He goes off injured, and then again yesterday. Yesterday against Monaco, he goes off. Saturday against Monaco, goes off for 10 minutes and then comes back on. Then it's gone off at halftime anyway. So it's
and
you only had him for a handful of games.
They'll be looking at that, won't they? They'll be looking at that and seeing how injury prone he is. So
correct, yeah. I think maybe the fact that Adams and Harrison are injured and will miss the start of the season maybe ends up keeping them at Leeds. If they still are injured when the window closes, does a club take a chance on, because they're not going to be loans at that point? They're going to be transfers. Yeah. Will they pay 20-25 million pounds for a player who's come back from a very bad hamstring tear that's had him out for nearly 5 months, which is a very serious hamstring injury, and Jack Harrison coming back from a hip injury? You're a winger. Your mobility is hugely important to what you've done. You've picked up a hip injury that's had to have surgery. You know, do we take a chance on him, or do these clubs look at these players and go, yeah, we're interested in them. Let's wait till Christmas, see how they get on. And if we're in a position by Christmas where we're competing to get promoted, maybe they stick around till the end of the season.
Man. Jack will go.
Do you know what I look at?
I don't think they all go. I don't think Nanto, Somerville, Sinistera, and Jack Harrison all leave. 2 of them stay. Which 2 is the question?
Which 2?
The one I think Harrison might stay. I think Harrison might end up staying.
You're not staying, man.
I look at
just because of the injury. Just because of the injury.
Yeah,
purely because of injuries. Andre.
Yeah,
I was exactly. Going to say, Sander Berge, when he was at Sheffield United, was going to go. He was going to leave, but he was injured, right? He cruise ship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens when a club wants to buy a player? Obviously, they do a medical. If you're injured, you can't do a medical.
No.
And a club will rarely sign a player without doing a medical because that's just the procedure. If Adams is injured and he can't hardly run, the club is not. You can't do a medical at a club, so you can't really.
Not Adams. I think Adams could stay.
Who did you say? Sorry.
He's on about the wingers, Harrison.
Harrison. I think, but Harrison's not going to be back till after the international window. They said yes, he won't start the season. He's going to be out until at least the end of the international window.
It would just be so Leeds that we end up keeping them all, and they're just all out injured anyway, so we don't get no money, or they don't play either.
Well, Greenwood's got a boot on his foot. That's why he was out of the game.
Yeah, I saw that.
Not a football boot. You should just say.
Not a football boot. Correct.
I agree overall. But the worry to me is that, of course, we talked about Nick Hammond. I trust him because you see the ambition and the story behind the first signing, Ampadu. Because it took a while, but we got a player that fits perfectly in the system. Mm-hmm. The only problem is that, of course, we're playing the season with certain players, but we don't know if those players will be there at the end of the deadline day. So the real problem for me is that, of course, if you bring in new players, they have to undergo a period of adaptability, and they need to accustom to the system to get into the system. Of course, Ampadu, you've seen, has done that quickly because, of course, that system suits its characteristics in midfield. Because, like I said, he's not a defender. He can play in defense, but he's not a defender. And you've seen why, because it's perfect for that system as he is the glue, the link-up player, creating the play from the back. But for other players, if we bring in players after some have left, tuning it to the season, let's call it trial program period, they'll have the accustomed period, the period when they adapt to the new team and to the new style of play, and they get in form. They'll have it at the start of the season with the first game. And Farke right now, of course, it's not an ideal situation because he's working with players and trying to build a system and a team with players that maybe not be here very soon, and players, because we like us in certain positions, that are adapted. Like Yaldi is adapted as a left back. Of course, like we've seen, like, I agree with Max, he can be a backup, but because he has defensive characteristics. So if we need to defend an advantage, you can put him in, and he's a defensive-minded player, and that he can be good from the bench. But for example, we're playing without the number 9 and a proper number 10, because yesterday Somerville played as a number 10. I didn't think he did that bad, because he moved a lot, went back. He showed commitment, unlike Gnonto, because Gnonto body language, I didn't really like that yesterday. To be fair,
it was a lot about Gnonto yesterday. I thought doesn't look to me like a player who's here yet. Whether he's only come up, maybe the gap is. He's a little bit less sharp than he was, but he did look like a player to me yesterday. And he spent an awful long time signing autographs with people. I was like, I wonder, is he saying goodbye to people?
Yeah, can be. But apart from that, also we've said in the past that the fullbacks are crucial with the style of football that Farkas play. But to me now, we're playing the season without the two crucial positions, in the system, because the number 10 is missing, and it's another crucial position, maybe the most important one in the system for Farke, because it's dropping back between the lines. It's like a link-up. And imagine a true number 10 with the wingers and Ampadu at the back. The ball can flow right to the top very quickly. So it's not a ideal situation. And to me, we need to sort that out. But our hands are tight. If offers aren't there right now for those players that have clauses, we're playing the season with them. But maybe they can go off mid-August or at the end of August. And the work that Farke has done, to restart the work that he's done in a certain positions from the scratch. Because new players have to come in and have to adapt during the start of the season, and that's not an ideal situation.
I think one thing as well that I'm really not happy about, but I'm glad we have Daniel Farke in this situation, because again, the experience of this league, he knows this league, he knows what he needs, and if we do lose those players later on, look, they already planned for that. If you have an inkling that Gnonto will leave, some of them will leave, you've already spoken to recruitment about.
Do you think Lockie, do you think he realised how bad it was, though?
I don't know, but there was clearly long discussions, right? Because it took a while. So I think that they've been honest with him. We know how honest he is. I think they said we could lose players, with a lot of them. And I think he said, right, how are you going to back me in recruitment? And they will have discussions. Yeah. That's what's always grasping me is the manager. We look at the other teams. I just think we've got the best one. And what he did at Norwich in his second season where he got them promoted, that team wasn't very experienced either. He had a lot of young players in there and he got the best out of them. And I just think with 2 or 3 more, starting 11 players, 2 or 3, 4 more key players in there, I think we'll be all right. But again, I just think with Daniel Farke, we have the best possible in this situation we could have, personally. I don't know.
Lucky, what do you do then, mate, if you're Farke and you know that Sinister and Gnonto or whoever else might be leaving, it comes to August the 6th and we've still got them. Do you play them and then just while you've got them, or do you want to build the team that you're going to have for the whole season? Well,
that's it. Have we already recruited the player in advance to them leaving? That's a question, right? We'll say Emmanuel Dennis, he's been linked. Yeah. So if he's available, if he wants to join the club, get him in. It's options, then it's competition. Then if one does leave, you've got Emmanuel Dennis. Then if another leaves, right, we've got Dan James, we've got Jorginho Ruta to play there. It's also a thing that I'm not saying he should start, by the way, for Mateo Joseph. He's playing out there for a reason, I think. Yeah. I don't think, you play your best players, right? Regardless if you think they're going to go, they could get you 3 points, could be huge at the end of the season. Yeah. But you've got to pre-plan for it without a doubt, and I hope they're doing that in the background. That's my.
I'd be shocked if they're not. But also, I think exactly what you said about the fact that Joseph and Rudder have been rotating around and looked at over those positions as well, and take into consideration that this is the championship we're talking about. The first 2 games we've played so far in pre-season, with a stack of kids in those teams, are Manchester United, who finished 3rd in the Premier League last season, who put a fairly decent side out in the first half in that game as well, and Monaco, who finished 6th in the French league. So, we're comparing apples and oranges here. Like what we go into in championship with championship level players. Yes, it might be a bit trickier than we were hoping it might be. But again, going back to what Lockie said about Farke, he knows the league. And he had a similar situation the first season he had at Norwich as well. Not all the players were in on time. They had a shaky start to the start of the season. And Farkas said since the day he walked in the door, this situation isn't ideal. The players moving isn't ideal. We have to be patient with the start of the season. The first month's going to be important just to pick up points here and there. So, I mean, Farke told us pretty much when he was taking over the job that we all said it didn't strike us as a man that was expecting a lot of signings to come in the door straight away. So, again, we've got to kind of take the worries that we have in the context of everything that we've heard so far from Farke, from the 49ers and what we've seen. I think he was aware of this. I think that it was sold to him on the premise. Look, we do understand there's a contract situation here. We may lose a lot of players. However, we plan on backing you to bring in players to replace them. And he insisted then on the head coach role being referred to as manager because he wanted to be involved in the recruitments then. And I think a lot of that comes down to what the bargaining was about. It was, okay, fine. I'm not coming to a club that's selling 90% of their starting 11 from last season, if not more, unless I'm very, very involved in bringing in the players that are going to replace and to build my team in my season next season. And I think if you look at his comments then when he took over the job, a lot of them were linking back to that as well. So I think he's fully aware of what's going on. I think what they're doing behind the scenes is what they're doing behind the scenes. We just get to this stage every week, Joe, we get a little bit edgy because of a result or because of something, and then something will happen. And if we believe Romano, it's a busy week next week.
Yeah, let's true. Let's just try and gain some positives now, because I think we've all had a little bit of a rant. I've been listening to you all intently, and I do want to steer it a little bit and try, get some positives about what's going to come this week. Before we do, Daniel says, Joe, I need good vibes. Well, we're going to try give it to you now, Daniel. When you travel on the 26th, I hope you have a safe travel. Kenneth says, for the new phone fund, it's actually the Mac. But yeah, thank you everyone who will contribute with that, by the way. And Daniel says, Leeds only do well if we close to London. The other way around, Daniel. I think the other way around.
Terrible in London.
Yes, terrible in London. Right, okay. So, as it stands now, with the current state, the squad, I think top six is a struggle, right? I genuinely believe that. But we're all confident that the board and Farke will do the necessary to make sure we have a strong squad at the end of August. And that's what Daniel Farke said, right? He said, I know by the end of August that we will have a strong squad, right?
I wonder what you were doing then it clicked.
Yeah, I like it. I love how he says it. So I think that'll be a left back. Phil here says we still like Charlie Taylor. That's one that's out there. Nat Phillips, for me, he's probably going to be the right-sided centre-back. It's gone very, very quiet, but he's not gone anywhere.
No.
So I think he's in the door. It's just, I don't know. Why is it?
I don't know. Maybe it's wrong. Why hasn't he gone to Feyenoord?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. He's there. We've got Kamara. He is there. Emmanuel Dennis was mentioned, and then it's the striker, isn't it? It's the striker. So yeah, I'm trying to find positive. So we're confident that's going to happen. We're going to bring players in. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm asking you here. I'm trying to. We've got Mishu as well. Mishu's been mentioned as potentially that 10, if you like. I guess let's just go around them. We'll come to you, Lloyd.
Only be available alone, though. Mishu.
Not the starter for me. He'd be a
not a starter for you. Okay. So, Lloyd, with all that in mind, the fact that we do believe the club will be positive, we've got 2 weeks to do it. Like, do you expect a flurry of transfers this week and there to be business done, brother?
It's just like going back to what Jer said, like the things that we did, myself included, deem negative is exactly what was planned. Like Jer said, the 49ers said it's going to be like this. Farke expected it in his first interview. So when you look at it from that, it's like this was meant to be happening anyway. But I do think I don't know if it would be in the next week, but I think it's going to run deep into August. Like, I really do. I'm just hoping we can just get 1 or 2 through the door before our first day of the season, and I think the rest will just be right up until the transfer window. But
do you think we win that game against Cardiff, first game of the season, with what we've got at the minute?
Yeah, this sounds a bit like pig-headed, but I think that the thing that will get us over the line that day is the fact that we're at Ellen Road. Like, I feel like if we had Cardiff away first day of the season, it might be a bit of a different story, but I think we'll just get over the line in that game.
Cool. Thanks, mate. Not feeling any more positive though, but you gave it a try, Lloyd. Let's switch it up. We're gonna do this. We're gonna come to Andrea. Andrea, transfers in the door this week.
Yeah, I think especially if Wilbur goes to left back, we'll have the new centre back coming in. It's like a chess game, you know. You move one piece out, another piece comes in, and takes his place. You know, the whites against the blacks. You know, in the chess game. So yeah, surely a centre back. Of course, I agree with you. There's been talks about Nat Phillips. Yeah. I still prefer one like Joe Rodon, to be fair. But yeah, I'll take Nat Phillips if he comes in. But yeah, I especially before the Cardiff game, I like to see the striker come in. You know, because we need to start the season with the striker and the number 10. Hopefully 3 signings. Then after that, looking at who's gonna stay and who's gonna go. Should I stay or should I go? Like the song says, you know. But you know, especially after that by the clash, we've seen that the players linked with moves or rumored to look for the door exit are especially wingers. You know, so we first need to look at the position. We're missing players, a key player. So the striker, the number 10, and the centre back if Bober goes, and the left back. So it's 4. It's 4 because Ferp was injured too. Then looking at the situation after the start of the season, if some players use that clauses to go away from the club, we'll move we'll follow that. You know, if players use the clauses, we need to bring another place back. But right now we need 4, 3, the striker, the number 10, and the left back massively. And if Bober goes, of course, and a centre back, because we'll have just Strauk and Cooper, Cresswell and Yalde. But you have to switch him back from left back to centre back, and at that point you won't even have a left back in the squad. Just Justin Byron, and it's not even in the squad. It's just training with the team because Firpo and Dallas are currently injured. One is injured and the other one is recovering. So if that's the case, we'll have to move Yalde back to as a defensive centre back option, and we'll be without the left back at the club. Yeah.
Mad, isn't it? Mad. Again, you've just made it worse, bro. Lockie. Lockie, come on, man. Bring the positivity.
Right, one thing I'll say, right, Joe. Remember other week when you were on Joe's stream and you were just like this, right? Remember? You know, you were miserable. Yeah.
I remember.
What about a few days later?
Yeah, Monday, mate. Ampadu got my tits out on that.
That's what I mean. Like, this is football. We're going to feel bad some days. Some days we'll feel great. I just think next week we're going to get players in. We're going to feel good again. We're going to see the training pictures of Ampadu and maybe a Nat Phillips, and we'll feel fine. Look, I'll be honest. Someone will clip this. I think we're going to batter Cardiff. I just think we will. Even if we don't have the best players or we're losing players, I just still think we're good enough to beat Cardiff. That first game at home against anyone in the Championship, you know, think of Marcelo Bielsa's first game against Stoke. We had no idea what to expect, did we? No. Then we outplayed them. Look, I just think because I back the manager probably too much and the recruitment, I just think we're going to be all right, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Oh, good. I like that. Come on then, Joe.
It's going to be fine. Everything will be grand. Don't be worried about it. There you go. I agree with everything that's been said. Lloyd said it there. And Lloyd, I think, summed it up perfectly. This is part of the plan. They planned for this. They knew this was going to happen. So
did they?
But they've been saying it. They've been saying it to our faces. We're going to sell players. You're not going to like this. Guess what happened? Players leaving, and we're talking about it because we're not happy. So literally exactly what we were told to happen is happening. So you assume everything else is going on behind the scenes. I'm not worried about this. I expect more players to go, and fine, let them go because it is their fault. We're down here because of them. They want to stay and get. They say, go, just head off. Off you go. Don't come back next season. And if you do come back next season, don't be surprised when you get a negative reaction. But I think they'll bring in players. I still part of me thinks that the players we've been linked to are not going to be the players that we bring in. On Cardiff,
I love that.
They're already.
Must-win game on this first preview.
I was going to say a couple of minutes ago, it feels like we're doing therapy already, and we haven't even picked the ball yet. Here we are now talking about it must win. On the Cardiff game, Cardiff have a transfer embargo. They can't bring in anybody unless it's on a free transfer. All they brought in outside of Aaron Ramsey is a couple of players on free transfers. That's it. I don't expect we battered them with half the kids playing last year. So fully expect that to happen again this year. So again, the context is the division that we're playing and who we're playing against. So again, not worried. As long as Farke has them playing the right way, I mean, you could line up on the game. You could line up first day of the season with Klassen in goal, Drama right back, Creswell, Cooper, and Hjelde as a back four. That's okay. That's an okay championship back four. It's not great. It's not perfect.
Not for the whole season.
We are playing.
Well, is it though? Well, hang on.
I don't like that.
You go through that again.
Just from a back four and a goalkeeper, you could start, assuming the worst happens, right? The absolute worst. We don't bring anybody else.
Say it again, please.
Klassen in goal, Cody Drama right back, Charlie Creswell and Liam Cooper centre back, and Leo Hjelde as a left back.
And so we don't have the capacity.
Now, you have strongly been advocating for Cody Drama to be in the team. This is his chance. So many people keep talking about, well, Charlie Creswell has to play. He has to play. There you go. He's in the team. Half of the fan base will say Cooper can't be near the starting 11. The other half will say he's a leader. He's still doing job for us in the championship, right? So there's that one. The only one that's questionable then is Leo Hjelde as a left back, which might not be him. It could be Stroke. It could be Byram. It could be somebody else. But there's three that people want playing, and they're there. We can't then turn around and say, well, that's a dreadful back four. Well, then the players you want to play are bad players, and you're identifying them yourself as bad players. So therefore, why do you want them in the team in the first place? So there's going to be an argument with our own.
I guess my point is to that, though. My point is to that, okay, it might be enough to beat Cardiff, but that's not a top six back four.
No, and it's not. I completely agree with you. But I'm saying if the worst comes to the worst, and remember the transfer deadline doesn't shut the day before the start of the season, it doesn't shut till the end of August. So
just to get us through August.
Yeah. Exactly. We could be that could be the worst case scenario. But again, I think the position.
Build the rest of the team. Go on.
All right. Ampadu's your centre midfielder. Could be a situation where he's in there with Archie Gray to start off with. It might not be him. It could be Shax in there.
No, not Shax. I don't mind Gray, not Shax.
Build the team is all
I'm just saying Gray's fine. Go on. Yeah, I like that midfield.
All right, Archie's fine. Then I think some of these will stay. So let's say we start with Cine on the right, Jorginho Rutter on the left. Then your number 10, say Somerville, maybe Somerville, although I think he'll go, but maybe Somerville. If not him, you've got Perkins as an option there as well. Could be Joffy. And then your number 9 is a toss-up between Bamford and Joseph.
Oh, it's not good.
Joseph.
It's like a chimera, you know. It's like a
but
a lion at the top and like a Ferrari at the top and a Fiat, a Vauxhall at the back.
There's an interesting point on that though, because if you look at the top 2 sides and the top 3 or 4 sides actually in the Premier League, they don't have out and out great defenders because they don't have to defend a lot. They spend most of the time in the opposition's half. The defending is done by their midfielders winning the ball back in the opposition half.
What I would compare it with, though, mate, is Leicester and Southampton and the streets ahead.
I don't think this is what I want
to be fair, Southampton just lost their entire defence this week. They've all gone, so they've got to rebuild there too.
And also, when you look at Leicester,
they got Ryan Manning, though.
Leicester have paid 10 million for Harry Winks.
Who's going to ask Lucky from Saints?
Can I just say something? Just to finish this point, sorry, because I'm getting back to the here, and I just want to say it. I never said this is the team we will start the season with. I said in the worst case scenario, people never listen. In the worst case scenario, that beats Cardiff for me. Still, that still is enough to beat Cardiff. That's where my head is at. Worst case scenario. Do I think we'll be in that position? No, I think players will come in next week, and I think we'll see players come in all the way up to the deadline day. And for the 50% of the fan base who only believe you've done work in the transfer window, if you actually do something on deadline day, they'll get exactly what they want this year because I would imagine we'll have a busy deadline day as well.
Yeah, I think we will as well. I think
it'll be fine. I mean, it might be a shaky enough start, but give it time. I think we'll be fine.
And Farke did say that. And, whatever happens, I won't turn on him unless he's just brutal, because this isn't his fault. He's a good coach and he will eventually. I'm just worried. I wanted us to be shooting out of the blocks, and I've just got a feeling that we're not going to. But listen, the Championship's a mad one. We've had managers come in at the arse end of the season, and the teams are bottom of the league, and they've ended up in the bloody playoffs. You know what I mean? It's not too. You don't need to get too worried about it, I guess. But at the minute, I don't know. I think it's just a Vauban thing really pissed me off, and then they all want to leave, and I just take it personal because it's my football club. It's like, how dare you? How dare you? Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel like,
Well, I mean, like, because clearly something was said when he came back, because he did do the media for the shirt launch. He was front and center in the pictures.
Yeah.
And again, putting the captain's armband on him, he's the one of all of them that I'm the most annoyed because you only just got here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, him and Christensen too, because Christensen, of course,
after the
season, it was saying that we'll have to fight and all that. But yeah, in the end, looking at their side of the players, of course, they're looking after their careers because there's the Euros next summer. But for us as fans, it's disrespect because they helped us to get down, and they won't be welcome. For me, they won't be welcome at Land Road, like you said. No. Absolutely, but
no way.
The real culprits, here are who negotiated that contract, and not just the signings, but also the contract renewals, because the Llorente was a renewal. We don't know if Strauch has a.
Why was that? Do you remember that? By the way, when we were told protecting value, and then people like me who not unfortunately, but we put our opinions out, and it's saved in a time capsule. There's no you're never able to get away from having that opinion once upon a time. Whereas people can make these opinions to the friends, and then they're not called out on it. But for someone like me who had a go at that, I remember doing a video, and then people are coming for me when he went to Roma, going, we were protecting his value. See, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you do. Where's that now?
No, you do. You're bang on, Joe. You were correct the first time. You're 100% correct. We extended his contract. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He comes back at the end of next season. There's still 2 years left on that deal. We still sell him. We only got him for 18. You're not going to get 18 back from, but you still sell him.
Oh, Joe, no.
I don't think.
We should have never given him a new deal. Is what I'm saying. People were saying that to me.
Yeah, that's the.
And I was like, no.
But if you are doing that, and you can try and, if the case was that they expect centre backs to be at a premium and they expect them to be worth an awful lot more money.
Who made that up? Was
probably
that Victor?
Probably.
You know what I mean? Where did he get that from? Where does that come from?
To be fair, the Middlesbrough fans warned us.
Because I'm convinced he's a crackhead.
But when he was in the championship, he did good business for both us and Boro when he was in the championship. They're not promoting to the Victor Orta cannot be the director of football of a Premier League club. Failed at Boro and failed at Leeds.
So, if I'm a Seville fan right now, looking at what he's done at Leeds, I would be scared because this again, it's the same thing. It's just this. Because the Rodrigo deal just stinks, and you can imagine the conversation. It stinks of this. I come to Leeds. I'm not going to a Premier League club and being involved in the relegation battle again. I've done that at Bolton. I'm not doing it again. No, we're not going to get relegated. In fact, I'm so confident we're not going to get relegated. If we do, you can leave for £3 million. How's that sound?
Yes, fine. Sign the contract,
and then it happens.
Do you know what, though, right? He's gone, right? We're just getting rid of the last few players we need, and then it's a fresh, whatever. Once these players that don't want to be here have gone, he's gone. We've got new owners, new people in charge. It's a fresh start from there, and we can all look forward.
Judge this at the end of August. Do what Farkas said. Farkas said,
the end of August.
Judge this.
Be patient, which is difficult.
And it's going to be difficult weeks for the next couple of weeks, but what I'd say is we can't keep judging an entire transfer window every day. You judge an entire transfer window when the transfer window's closed, not when it's still wide open. There's loads of time left in it. So
I no work though, then, bro.
I know that, yeah. I know, yeah.
You might as well knock in the daily video, bro.
I still think there's a huge amount of stuff that we can talk about, and I will always say the same thing. As positive as I am about where we're going and the 49ers, it is always important to have a safe amount of skepticism in the back of your head because of what we've gone through before as fans. But it's sometimes that skepticism, I think, pushes itself forward too much, and we ignore what we've heard in the past. I think if we step back from the whole thing, and if you take the clip notes from all of the interviews that have been done with Farke, Parag Marate, all the stuff that's come out from the 49ers, sit back and look at it. Go watch that live stream again that he did with Matthew Lewis. Watch it again and listen to what he said. And when he
Do you know
talks
what I will
about
say to you though, Joe? And again, this is why I love having you on, because we can talk and it's sometimes we have difference, but it's always like amicable and respectable. What I would say is, for a guy that wasn't involved, he was on the Calvin Phillips documentary and was in the room when Calvin was being sold with Rads, but he told us he was just a passenger on the bus. Well, he was there. He was
They didn't have
involved.
decision-making powers, apparently. That was the issue. They didn't have a decision-making
Just
powers.
like imagine try and be with Vorta and Rads there. Do you think like he could change their mind in any way? We know what they're like. They know how stubborn they are, right?
Well, there's
No, I
also
get
another
that. I'm
side
not
to it.
saying to change the mind on Calvin, but I'm saying he was a lot more involved than he'd have us
yeah,
believe.
but the final decision at the end of the day is down to the people that were at the top, and he wasn't.
They signed off on that. Yeah. And the other thing is to say as well, if you look at how corporate businesses are run, and I've been both lucky and unlucky enough to work for some multinationals, and I can tell you there have been times where I've worked for places where people who've worked together but worked in different teams have often said, "Let them fail. Let it fail. Let it fail. Whatever this is they're doing, let them make a balls of this, because if they do make a balls of this, I don't have to deal with this again in the future. Let them fail." There's only so many times you can say to somebody, "That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. You should do that." Before eventually, even people you work with, you just go, "Okay, my hands are off the wheel now. If you want to do that, go for it. You do it."
And he did say actually as well that he'd learn what not to do.
Yeah.
And I think he did sort of use that time as a chance to. It's his first foray into football in the European sense, and for him, he's looking at it and thinking, this is the only experience I've had or I will get before owning a club of how a football club is run. So and also he's not thinking this is how to do it. He's obviously thinking, let's just neutrally look at this and see what they do. And he's noticed all the bad things they've done and all the good things that they've done. And obviously they did do some good things, but the bad things outweigh that. And he's identified that and said, look, I've basically been on a big one long scouting mission here. And I've seen exactly what not to do. And that's not what I'm going to do in the future. And just because I didn't get my chance to say what was positive, Joe.
Sorry, mate. I was coming to you after. I was just
it just segues on nicely. The fact that Nick Hammond has been brought in. I said this at the time when he was first brought in. It's such a sensible and calculated move compared to what we've seen before. Bringing in somebody on a temporary basis, even if they do want to make it permanent. It was originally temporary, and they can see what he does and how good he is at his job. I said it on Jer's podcast a couple of days ago on Friday night. I said that Ethan Ampadu is usually the sort of signing that a championship club might get on a loan deal. When we saw Derby with that team that had Tomori, Mount and Harry Wilson in it, those are the sorts of players who would never get to go to a championship club permanently because they would see themselves as too good and they would want to go back to the parent club. Whereas Ampadu has been brought on a permanent deal for £7 million, which is a decent deal for the player's experience. Then you start to look at Nat Phillips as well. He's been on loan to the championship before, but obviously considered himself too good to be on a permanent deal and went back to Liverpool thinking that he may be able to get some minutes there. If we can bring him in as well, that is another player who has played in the Premier League and in the championship, got some minutes, knows what he's doing, and fits Daniel Farke's system as well. If we bring Nat Phillips in early next week, and then we start to look at that's when each signing like that will build my trust of what they are doing in this transfer window. And I think for me, we bring 2 players in next week, mainly because I don't think we have any other option.
Before Forest Thursday?
No, just by the end of the week. We could, I reckon we'll sign somebody fairly early in the week and then after the Forest game as well on the Saturday or the Sunday, the weekend. I think we bring 2 players in next week because we've got, as we've all identified here, we probably
play Sunday as well, don't we? Don't we play Sunday as well, folks?
We need roughly 4 players, don't we, for the first team, not just for the whole squad, just for the first team. So you feel like they have to. You don't really see many clubs bringing in 3-4 players in 1 week, do you? It's usually 1 or 2. So 2 this week, 2 next week, and you start to think, okay, let's have it against Cardiff. So for me, I think there's going to be 2 players in this week. I think Nat Phillips is going to be one of them. And Emmanuel Dennis the other, maybe. So you can clip this if it's right. If it's not, never speak of it again.
I'll be clipping it. I'll be clipping it as a YouTube short.
Yeah, but I think Nick Hammond, what he did for Newcastle, most of their transfers that he brought in that little window was really good. And even the Chris Wood one, you can argue it was a good move because they've got so much money they could afford to just buy Burnley's relegation, basically.
Yeah. And they got it back from him as well when they sold him, so they made him back.
Yeah. And in terms of recruitment, you think about it, recruited Daniel Farke 1 for 1, Nick Hammond, sensible, good, 2 for 2, Ampadu 3 for 3. So they've got it right so far.
Other than Greta Steinson, who we are yet to see how good he is.
Yeah.
All it takes is just one negative thing to happen, isn't it? And then everything looks like
it's because we're scarred with that from the past 2 years.
But it's like Lockie said, if we sign someone tomorrow, everything will look positive again. It's just,
100%.
It's just balance on razor blade every day, isn't it?
This isn't scarring, Lockie. This is systematic gaslighting over a 20-year period. So that's not scarred, mate. This is serious. Damage just been done to us.
Deeply.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
There's still gonna be somebody when we do sell Fairboat. There'll be still one person that'll pop going, actually, I thought he was okay. So no one, we're never gonna be always happy with everything that we do. But I think, again, I say the same thing. We just take a step back, look at what's been said, and then put it into context of what we've seen. What they've said so far is what we've seen so far. So let's hope and assume the rest goes the same way.
Just one quick thing as well. It's just, if we do sign a player and he's not that good, let's not all lose our heads. I don't mean us in this group here. I mean just as a general as a fan base, because there's a really good video actually that Tifo IRL uploaded, and I think it's what's he called? The guy that used to be involved with Leeds content and stuff. John. Yes, yeah. And it's got Calvin Phillips in the thumbnail. It says why half of Premier League transfers fail. It's a really good and interesting video. It's not just about Premier League because obviously it applies to everyone, but it talks about the situations that players come into. They don't quite fit the system. They've got injury records, all these different factors that can play into a transfer not working. But the only thing that you can expect of the club is to identify as many things as possible that are in their control. Ethan Ampadu, Farke's wanted him before. He fits his system. He's not injured very often. It's for the right price, and they've basically identified that he's the perfect player for what Farke wants to do with him. There's nothing else that they could do with that transfer other than provide Farke with those tools. If they start bringing in, like Victor Orta did, players who have been extremely injury prone, they don't quite fit the system, etc., or do you know what I mean? Players who've been.
You were doing so well, mate. You're giving me PTSD. You're giving me PTSD. Stop. But I get what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think they're going. I think they're going to get everything that's in their control. They're going to get that right. It's just things that are out of control that may go wrong with a transfer. So you've got to try and look at
it subjectively.
Yeah, but on the point that Joe said about Parag, being involved, because I watched the documentary and it was, shown by the cameras to be in the room with Radrizzani and Kinnear, and of course during the negotiations for Carmen, where Rad said that Carmen was worth about 60 or 70 million. But if you remember, during the Take Us Home, there was one of the episodes when the 49ers visited Annan Road, and they were already minority owners, of course, when it was explained specifically that as minority owners, they were coming to be instructed and be shown around how the places was run at the time. So I have the sense, and it seems to be the general narrative of listening at the Radrizzani interview, that right now the fault is shifting towards Orta and just Orta. But I think it was just a general fault with two specific fault, of course by Orta because he was the director of football, but at the top the CEO should be questioned too. But if they trust Kinnear to still remain at the club, there must be reasons, There must be reasons.
It's like it's like the 49ers are blaming Rads and Rads is blaming Orta.
And I think Kinnear trusted Orta's opinion, right? Rads too much because he's still at the club.
Definitely, bro.
He's still at the club, and I think if they've seen something in him, the 49ers, deciding to keep him in an important role at the club. Of course, I won't like to see my CEO giving football opinions on the program notes, because of course we have a director of football. We had a director of football, so the CEO was main capacities to overlook and supervise the whole areas of the club, and mainly the marketing one, the sponsorship one, not the football related one. Of course, he's in charge of the contracts, but giving the tactical opinions, like the two international number 9s like Rodrigo and Bamford, But if they kept him on the club, there must be reasons. So of course he has to start from the scratch, because the opinions that the Leeds fans have about him, it's not good, and he's at fault, like Horta, of course, because the CEO and the director of football are two main figures in a hierarchy that have power in terms of contract and the general daily operations of the club. Of course, the owner is culpable too, because he ultimately signs off the contract and gives the last word, the last green light, to set the situation. Of course, Radstad now is trying to say that he trusted Horta too much.
Call it dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think that was something that was. Sorry, Andrea. I just think it's something that was key from that interview with Andrea did, that he.
Please don't back him up, Max.
No. Whilst blaming Horta, he accidentally admitted that it was his shortcoming as well. Not that his ego didn't even let him realize this, but him saying that I trusted Horta and Horta got everything wrong. Yeah, that's because you put that much trust in him and that much power in him.
He actually went on to say it, but again, I don't think he said it deliberately. I think he was thinking about the answer as he was answering the question. He was, answering bits of it as he went along, because at the end of it goes, and then he goes, well, and I ultimately signed off on those. So, there it is.
But I think to bring that back to a positive for now, we are sort of diversifying our recruitment in that sense, in that there is more than one person doing that job. It's not like the 3 people at the top of the club who are in control of everything. We looked at the hierarchy on Joe's podcast. The Athletic had done a nice little graphic that shows who's working for who. And there is Parag Morate at the top with Rudy Klein-Thomas and the other 49ers. And then underneath, you've got all the individual departments with a head of department who everything goes to before then coming right up to the top, how a business should work. Yeah. And it means that multiple people have to sign off on stuff. It's not just that Victor Orta goes, I want to sign this player, and the only person he asks is the manager. And I think even with when Jesse Marsh came in, I think they didn't want to give the manager as much power as what they did with Bielsa. So I think Orta was making those decisions above Jesse Marsh's head. But really, a director of football should be on the same level as a manager and a coach. Correct. And they should be colleagues in that they discuss it together and they come to an agreement and take that to the people who are actually going to cough up the cash.
The entire point of a director of football role was to allow a manager to focus on the team, because the old school managers ran the club. They ran everything in the club. They looked after the kit men. They looked after the medical team. They set the programs for everybody. You go back 30 years ago when Howard Wilkinson was at Leeds, he was running the show pretty much outside of the chairman. That was the hierarchy, manager, chairman. And then they started to break it up so that, when it got more commercial, director of football can focus on the off-the-pitch stuff, you focus on the on-the-pitch stuff. So he's absolutely at the same level as the manager. But it's, in Orta's case, even in Kinnear's situation, I keep saying it, I still believe Kinnear's a bit of a scapegoat in this now as well, because he's still there. But he's a CEO, so he can say yes and no all he wants, but ultimately Radrizzani has to go with what he says. And if Victor Orta was sitting in these board meetings acting like a board member pushing his agenda, and then they were backing Orta 100%, Kinnear's role was irrelevant in that, because it didn't matter what Kinnear said. He trusted Orta 100%, and he said as much.
Yeah,
so
that's his fault, exactly. He trusts Orta so much, and actually Max is spot on when he says, that right now the right word to say to define the club is we have an organization. We have an organization. If we listen again to Rad's interview, he said, I trusted Orta too much to bring in players from the Austrian league. The gap is too big. That was in the summer. In the winter, we brought in Weber from the Austrian league and Rotter, an unexperienced player from the Bundesliga, from Hoffenheim, thinking he was a striker when he's not a striker. So he already knew that, but he decided to trust Orta again in the winter transfer window. And he said Marsh, the manager too, because he said players and manager from the Austrian league. He said that the gap was too big, but he was ruthless when it sacked Bielsa. But it took too long to sack Marsh, and then they didn't have a replacement ready, and decided to trust Orta again to bring in Javi Gracia, another manager who was out
convinced them to keep Jesse Marsh in the job as long as he did as well, because apparently they were looking at Unai Emery, and Orta said, "No, we're backing Jesse Marsh."
He threatened to leave. He said if they didn't back Orta's decision, he was going to walk.
Well, they should have let him walk.
The other thing about that as well is
100%.
If you go back and look at when they did, mutual parting of ways between Leeds United and Victor Orta when they did finally give him the boot last year. There's no way, and part of me thinks they protected him. I think part of me thinks Radrizzani even protected him because they knew that this was coming and we didn't know about it yet. Same with Rads. He's gone now as well. I want that they don't stick around for this knowing that they've put half the squad on a loan clause situation. Can you imagine what uproar would be in right now if it was still Radrizzani as the owner and Orta as the director of football?
Wow, can you imagine?
Yeah.
So
it'd be mental.
I'm now pissed off that we did let him go as easy as we
did.
We should be sitting here right now taking the heat for this.
Imagine. It'd be mad, wouldn't it? Fucking burn it down, man.
Just a thought I had. You're talking about the fact that they kept Kinnear on. He was a big part of the Arsenal moving from Highbury to the Emirates, I think, and then building a new stadium. And now the 49ers have a lot of experience in building Levi Stadium and developing a stadium over there. But that's an American football stadium. And Kinnear has experience with a European football stadium as well. So I do think it's him and them that were working together mainly on the plans for it before the Radrizzani left. And I think he will be valuable in that. But yeah, I think he has been used as a scapegoat a little bit. And I mean, when we got relegated, I made a thumbnail that had all three of them in it with clown faces on. But when I was putting Kinnear in, I thought, this isn't fully aimed at Kinnear. It's just that it looks better with all three of them in it.
No, but bro, no. You give him too much credit though. I've met him in person. Really nice guy. Spoke to me. I played football with him, and I also did the Yorkshire Free Peaks with him. Really, really nice guy. So from that respect, but the way that he gaslighted fans, Max, in program notes was not acceptable. The way that he spoke to fans in program notes was not acceptable. For me, I took it really personal. I don't think you have a right to try and talk down to me like that. Like, who are you? You're just a custodian of the football club. And guess what? Them fans you were gaslighting ended up fucking being right.
I think that may have been a bit of overcompensating, mightn't it? Just to try and protect Radrizzani and also.
I agree with that. I think there was a level of.
Oh no!
No, I'm not giving him credit. He's getting no credit. He
also was against fan ownership and fan involvement and related it to Chairman Mao.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, come here. He's not getting any credit here. Like, he doesn't have any credit. He hasn't done anything for me.
We're just saying he's not as bad as
correct. But why are we saying that though? Because he's only still here and we're looking for positives. He's just as bad as the rest.
Well, he might be, Joe. He might be, and we could be wrong. In 12 months' time, we could be saying the opposite. Again, we just said a few minutes ago, if you go off what Radrizzani said, he trusted Orta 100%. So did Kinnear really ever have a say in the game, or was he the English face for the English club? You know what I mean? And again, the stadium stuff was there. He looks after that. He was also the only member of the board that actually came out to a car park and talked to fans when things weren't going bad. He was also the only member of the Freedom who actually turned up at Ellen Road on the final day of the season.
That's true.
He went to work.
Maybe because he knew he was keeping his job.
Maybe he just came to work because that's his job, and you do your job because you're the CEO of the company. You go through the good times and the bad. But you look at Radrizzani's excuse for not coming up. He had an infection in his eye and was told to avoid stress. Come on,
pink eye. That's right.
You got a sky in your eye because you're wearing sleep. And turn up to work and do your job. So there's that. But what I will say about Kinnear is, he does have making up to do this season, and he does have to try and win some trust back. Yeah. I don't want to see him doing program notes anymore. No. I don't think a CEO should be near him. Max, you've said this before as well. A CEO shouldn't be anywhere near a match day program. That should be the manager and the captain, and leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think that the 49ers will bring in another figure, especially with Klein Thomas and in the PR and the media. So I don't think we'll see the CEO again doing the program notes, and
That's all
especially we'll have a different type of communication. You know, it was heavily criticized last season, the difference in communication compared to the Bielsa years. You know, so I think the 49ers will oversee, especially with the help of Clint Thomas, because he's a marketing and PR genius in America. So I think we'll see differences, and not like you say, person first. You say probably, you know, protagonists. You know, in terms of people who want to be protagonists and face of the club. I think that the club will be the first and important thing, and there will not be cult of personalities. You know, like the CM Punk, Joe.
Yeah, I was just going to call it personality.
Just real quick, Joe, because there's
Yes.
some people questioning the whole stadium stuff. The clarification on what actually happened with 49ers ground. 49ers tried to redevelop their stadium exactly where it was, and the city who owned part of that stadium or owned the stadium rights were refusing to work with the 49ers to develop the stadium where it was. They had no choice but to move. They decided to move their stadium to where the club trained. So at least it kept it slightly connected to where the club was based. Now, it was a good bit away from where Levi Stadium was, but they built it there because the city, and if you look at American sports, the cities own the stadiums, not the clubs. They build well, in some cases, a lot of cases, they own the club, they own the stadium. So it's not the same thing as it is in England. It's a very different situation. They're not going to pack up Ellen Road and move it. They've already said they're not moving Ellen Road. They've already said they're developing it. So
the dream of Ellen Road in Manchester is not on, is it?
no, so it's off. Milton Keynes is usually good for that kind of stuff,
yeah,
though, isn't it?
True. Right, listen, we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes, much longer than I expected us to do tonight, but we've been loads to get through. Sorry for being so pessimistic and negative, but that's where my head is at right now. Thank you to each and every one of you amazing contributors. Each doing amazing things. Lloyd, well done on your 1,000. Thanks again for being here, buddy. Max, for always giving me a counter narrative and trying to bring it back round to the positives. Big up to you, Max. Make sure you check out Leeds Lately. Lockie as well, just laughing at my shit jokes. Big up to you, pal. We've got Joe. Yeah, Joe Pink Eye, I know, right? Joe, you're a legend. I love you, mate. And of course, everyone's favourite Italian, Andrea. Make sure you show love to all of them. Thanks as always for watching. And we'll probably be back tomorrow at some point with what I'm hoping it's positive news. I'm hoping it's Leeds are pushing the button on 2 or 3 and expect movements this week. So let's wait and see. And with that, we will leave it out, folks. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and see you in a bit.